Hello and welcome to White Glove Reviews. In this video, I will be giving y'all my audiobook report on Steel World by B.V. Larson. And this book is read by Mark Boyett. Now, okay. Steel World is very much in the genre of military sci-fi. And I gotta tell you, I have a weakness for military sci-fi. I've listened to a bunch of it. And if you're not familiar with the genre of military sci-fi, let me think. Probably, this is a tough one. Probably the closest classic example would be Starship Troopers by Robert Heinlein. That's probably one of the earlier military sci-fi type books. You might also include Old Man's War by John Scalzi. If you've listened to either of those are probably very close to military sci-fi. Now, one thing about military sci-fi is, in general, military sci-fi doesn't quite get into the area where you'd consider it men's adventure books. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the term men's adventure books, imagine the cheesiest romance novel you can imagine, but a guy version of that, where it's a bunch of guns, it's a bunch of, women involved with the main characters in interesting ways, and oftentimes there's a lot of talking about very specific gun-related things. Now, I have occasionally had a weakness for men's adventure books too, but there is a distinction. At least I consider there to be a distinction between men's adventure books and military sci-fi. Probably the classic example I can think of that jumps to mind for a men's adventure book would be the Deathland series. And I listened to a bunch of the Deathland series and I enjoyed it. But to give you a kind of idea of the material, the first couple of those that I listened to, I bought at a truck stop, and they were on cassette, and they were in those like plastic clamshell cases. Now, I enjoyed listening to Deathlands, I really did. And if you like Deathlands, I'll include links to all the books that I talk about in the description. But if you like Deathlands, I think they're up to like 150 of them now. There's a bunch of them, and a lot of them are audiobooks. I haven't actually looked to see how many are audiobooks, but I can tell you from personal experience, I think there's at least 39 of them. So there's a lot of Deathlands. Anyway, forgive the ramble. The setup for Steel World and Undying Mercenaries is basically, it's set in the future. It's set in, I want to say it's like 21 something, I think is when the series starts. But what happened is a galactic battle fleet shows up to Earth in 2052, and the Earth is given the highly questionable opportunity to either join the Galactic Empire or they blow you up. And the issue is that if you're going to be a member of the Empire, you have to be able to contribute something. And so what happens is the Earth decides that they can contribute mercenaries. And the Undying Mercenaries, it's about the main character's name is James McGill, and what happens is the mercenaries are organized into legions reminiscent of the old Roman legions, and he joins a legion called Legion Varus, and they're kind of like the legion that gets all the bad jobs in the universe. They're the dumping grounds for the less stellar troops. Where the Undying Mercenaries part comes in, what happens is one of the alien technologies that Earth gets from the Galactics, from the Empire, is they get these machines that basically print out people. And what happens is all of the Legionnaires, they have a thing called a tapper that constantly records their brain state up until the point they die, and it's transmitting this back to it's basically sending it wireless back to the Legion. So when a Legionnaire gets killed, they can print them out a new body, and or technically, it sounds like they kind of grow a new body. But anyway, there are some squishy details involved in the way that the mercenaries get regrown. But they regrow a new body, and their brain is put into the body. Now, the drawbacks to this are that the Legionnaire often retains memory of his death because the brain usually doesn't die immediately unless you happen to be, I don't know, blown up and instantly killed by a missile. So, some people in the Legion can't really handle repeatedly dying and coming back. It's apparently traumatic for some people. It does also give the mercenaries kind of some interesting training opportunities, and there's a few points where the like one of the things that comes up in a later book, and I just think it's hilarious, is they kind of have the capsule deployment, like kind of have the capsule deployment like they sort of had in Starship Troopers, where they're shot out of the ship in little capsules. Only it doesn't really have any of the safety measures or armored suits. Well, actually, they do have armored suits, but it doesn't have exactly the safety measures you'd expect from most things. And they mentioned that there's like a certain percentage of people who are killed getting into the capsules, because what happens is they describe it as there's a hole they drop through in the floor, and then the capsule snaps around them and they're shot out. And if their timing is off, the capsule will like cut them in half or crush them, that kind of thing. And it's just it creates an interesting situation where the characters aren't thrilled about getting killed, because as I understand it from the book, it's kind of uncomfortable. There's a point where good old James McGill mentions how he never wants to get eaten by a dinosaur monster again, because apparently being eaten alive by a dinosaur monster is not a happy experience, especially if you can remember it. But anyway, it's a really entertaining book series, and currently there are 12 books in this series. And when I started listening to this series, I think it was around book 8. It was maybe book 7 or book 8 was out. And what's happened is, as I've gone through, when I first started listening to it, I listened to like 1 through 7 or 1 through 8 in one shot. I mean, like back to back, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, normally with a series like this, I tend to get burned out on it and just sort of kind of give up on it later on and just not continue. And I'm wondering if there being a small gap. I mean, B.V. Larson he's pretty prolific. He cranks out books regularly. So I'm wondering if maybe part of my not burning out on this series is I get the next book like every, 6 months, 9 months, whatever. And they're broken up. So I don't know, but I have not burned out on this series yet. And the most recent book, Clone World, book 12, just came out, I want to say a month or two back, not very long ago. And I'm still interested in the series, and I'm still interested in the world. Now, I don't know if I'd burn out on like 12 books in a row right now, like if I listened to it over again. But one of the things that he has done, B.V. Larson's done, is he's developed sort of different aspects of the world, and the world has expanded, like as the 12 books have progressed, the world has expanded, and it's added more characters, and he's added more depth to the universe. And like there's I don't want to give away too much, but the books are a little formulaic, but they're not quite as bad as like Deathlands. But there is a, there's the pre-mission, there's the mission, there's the little bit of post-mission kind of stuff. So I mean, like, there is a formula to it, but the formula with the various different worlds that he goes to, and the different cultures and good and bad guys that you interact with in the books, it hasn't gotten old for me yet. and that's kind of the best thing. I mean, with a series like this, it's really, I mean, I do legitimately burn out on certain series. Like he wrote another series that I enjoyed. The first book was The Swarm, I want to say. It's like the Star Force series, and I listened to that in one shot, and I got to the point, I got to like, I want to say book 8 of that one, and I started to book 9, and I was just like, oh, I'm tired and done. I can't make it anymore. But I haven't hit that point with the Undying Mercenaries yet, and I'm still enjoying the series. So anyway, if you're looking for some very decent military sci-fi, give Undying Mercenaries a shot. You might like it. Anyway, if you have any suggestions for any audiobooks you think I should check out, or if you have any questions, just let me know in the comments. And if you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. And I hope y'all have an excellent day.